Have you ever wondered why some people seem to walk through life and everything just works out for them? Doors open when they knock, opportunities chase them, and favor seems to follow them everywhere. What if I told you there is a secret blueprint, a divine pattern that determines whether your decisions attract God's favor or push it away? Today, I'm going to reveal the exact principles that can position your life for supernatural acceleration. Listen closely, because what you decide today could change the course of your destiny forever. Beloved, today I want to share with you a secret, a blueprint, a divine pattern that, when understood and applied, can make your decisions attract God's favor. There is a principle in the spiritual realm. God's favor is not random. It is not a matter of luck. It is a matter of alignment. When your steps are in harmony with His will, when your decisions are made in obedience to His voice, favor will chase you relentlessly. Favor is strategic, and to walk in it, you must understand that every choice you make either positions you for divine blessings or repels them. The first step to making decisions that attract God's favor is learning to consult with the source of wisdom Himself. Before you commit, before you sign that document, before you make that move, seek God's face. Prayer is not just a ritual, it is the language through which heaven directs your steps. It is through prayer that you receive clarity to differentiate between a choice that seems good to man and a choice that is pleasing to God. Favor responds to wisdom, and wisdom is the product of communion with the Father. Secondly, you must understand your divine assignment. There is a purpose placed on your life that no one else can fulfill. Decisions that align with your assignment attract favor. Decisions that deviate from your assignment attract confusion and delay. The blueprint to favor is to know what God has called you to do and ensure that every choice propels you toward that purpose. Favor cannot dwell where purpose is absent, for it is designed to multiply what is in line with God's plan. Thirdly, let wisdom and discernment guide you. Many people make decisions based on emotions, the opinions of friends, or societal pressures. These choices may offer temporary relief, but will never attract lasting divine favor. Favor comes when your decisions are informed by godly wisdom, by an understanding of eternal consequences, and by sensitivity to the Spirit. The person who discerns the times and the will of God in their choices positions themselves to be lifted above ordinary men. Fourthly, consistency is critical. Favor is not attracted by one-off good choices. It is drawn to those who demonstrate reliability and faithfulness. Even when you don't see immediate results, the choices you make in patience and perseverance signal to heaven that you are ready for multiplication. The secret blueprint teaches that patience and steadfastness in decision making prepare the soil for favor to manifest. Finally, embrace obedience over convenience. There will always be easier roads, more comfortable alternatives, or shortcuts that look appealing. But favor does not dwell where compromise thrives. It is when you choose the path that honors God, even at a personal cost, that you trigger supernatural acceleration. Heaven respects decisions that honor the King above personal comfort, and God's favor will follow relentlessly. So, beloved, the secret blueprint is simple: pray, understand your purpose, pursue wisdom, remain consistent, and choose obedience over convenience. Apply these principles and watch as doors open, mountains move, and opportunities manifest in ways that surpass human imagination. God's favor is not a wish. It is a reward for alignment. And when your decisions are in sync with His will, nothing can hinder your progress. God's favor is one of the most misunderstood concepts in the life of believers. Many think of favor as random, as though it simply appears when you are lucky or when circumstances happen to align in your direction. But the truth is far more profound. God's favor is strategic. It is not a coincidence or a mere stroke of luck. It is a deliberate, divine principle that follows a certain order, a blueprint that is designed to advance His purpose through your life. Favor is like a supernatural investment. It always seeks to multiply what aligns with God's plan and purpose. To experience it, you must first understand that it does not dwell in areas where God's will is ignored or where choices are made recklessly. The universe does not operate randomly, and neither does divine favor. Just as a farmer prepares the soil, plants the right seed, and nurtures it carefully to harvest a crop, God's favor responds to preparation, alignment, and obedience. When you make choices that are in sync with His will, favor becomes inevitable. When your decisions deviate from His purpose, favor becomes blocked. Strategic favor means that there is a divine design behind the opportunities, breakthroughs, and open doors that appear in your life. It is not simply about being in the right place at the right time. It is about being in the right place at the right time because of deliberate alignment with God. Every step you take, every decision you make, either positions you for favor or distances you from it. When your life is anchored on principles that God honors: integrity, humility, diligence, faithfulness, favor is drawn toward you like a magnet. It is the supernatural endorsement of God that opens doors that human effort cannot force. It causes people to cooperate with you, and it brings resources, wisdom, and influence into your path. Strategic favor is intelligent, intentional, and result-oriented. It seeks to multiply fruit where the seed planted is aligned with God's design, and it bypasses areas that are not in accordance with His plan. One important aspect of understanding God's strategic favor is recognizing that it often operates in ways that are unseen. It may not manifest immediately, and it may not always come with fanfare, but the results are real and lasting. Favor may first come in the form of divine connections, timely information, or sudden insight that positions you to succeed. These are not coincidences. They are markers of a system that rewards alignment and punishes deviation. Those who fail to understand this often live in frustration, thinking that God is silent or absent, when in reality, they are simply out of alignment with His strategic favor. Favor is selective. It does not chase everyone equally. It follows a divine logic that rewards obedience, faithfulness, and pursuit of purpose. Strategic favor also requires responsibility. It is not a license to act recklessly and expect miracles. It responds to intentionality, planning, and consistency. The person who consistently makes decisions rooted in integrity and purpose positions themselves to receive favor repeatedly. Favor compounds over time. It builds upon prior obedience, prior alignment, and prior faithfulness. This explains why some people seem to experience constant breakthroughs, while others struggle despite similar effort. The difference lies not in effort alone, but in alignment with the blueprint that attracts God's favor. Therefore, to understand God's favor as strategic is to recognize that it is a tool for advancing His purpose. It operates according to a divine principle of alignment, obedience, and integrity. It is not arbitrary. It is intelligent, purposeful, and results-driven. Those who learn to navigate life with this understanding begin to see opportunities, connections, and blessings manifest in ways that surpass human expectation. Favor is not about luck. It is about being in the right position according to God's strategic plan. Decision making is one of the most critical aspects of life, and yet many people approach it with uncertainty, relying solely on human reasoning, emotions, or the influence of those around them. But for a life that attracts God's favor, decisions must be rooted in prayer. Prayer is not just a ritual or a moment of asking for blessings. It is the communication channel through which heaven aligns your steps with divine purpose. Every decision you make carries consequences, both seen and unseen. And without divine guidance, you risk walking into situations that may appear beneficial but are actually harmful. When prayer becomes the foundation of your decision making, it shifts the process from human speculation to heavenly direction, allowing your choices to be informed by wisdom that surpasses understanding and insight that transcends ordinary reasoning. Rooting your decisions in prayer means that before you act, before you commit to a plan, before you invest your time, money, or resources, you take the time to seek God's counsel. It requires patience and the willingness to pause rather than rush into choices. Many people miss divine opportunities because they act impulsively, guided by emotions, societal pressure, or the fear of missing out. But when you engage in prayer, you are essentially inviting the ultimate strategist into your process, the one who sees the end from the beginning, who understands every detail, and who knows the consequences of every choice before it unfolds. Prayer positions you to make decisions that are not only beneficial in the short term, but are eternally aligned with your purpose and divine assignment. Moreover, prayer in decision making cultivates clarity. In the midst of multiple options, conflicting advice, or overwhelming circumstances, the mind can become confused and the heart restless. Prayer quiets the noise and brings divine perspective. It allows you to see beyond the surface of situations, to perceive hidden pitfalls, and to recognize opportunities that human eyes cannot detect. God often speaks through impressions, confirmations, and a sense of peace in the heart, signaling the path that aligns with His will. When you make choices without consulting God, you are essentially navigating in the dark, relying on guesswork, and exposing yourself to unnecessary delays, setbacks, or failures. Rooting decisions in prayer also builds a posture of dependence on God rather than self. Human wisdom is limited, but divine wisdom is infinite. The moment you acknowledge that you cannot figure everything out on your own, and you intentionally seek God's direction, you invite His favor. Favor is drawn to those who recognize that their strength alone is insufficient, but that God's guidance can make the difference between mediocrity and excellence, between stagnation and breakthrough. Prayer aligns your will with His, and when your will aligns with heaven, favor begins to move in your life, opening doors, orchestrating encounters, and providing supernatural solutions. Furthermore, decision-making rooted in prayer fosters accountability and humility. It teaches you to weigh your choices not merely by what is convenient, popular, or profitable, but by what is righteous, wise, and in harmony with God's principles. It transforms your perspective from immediate gratification to long-term alignment with divine purpose. It allows you to hear God's voice in the midst of uncertainty and to make choices that are consistently rewarded by supernatural favor. Therefore, prayer is not an optional accessory to decision making, it is the foundation. It transforms your choices from human attempts into divine appointments. It provides clarity, cultivates dependence, ensures alignment with purpose, and draws favor to your life. Decisions made without prayer may succeed temporarily, but they lack eternal alignment and are vulnerable to unnecessary obstacles. Decisions rooted in prayer, however, are empowered with insight, peace, and favor, positioning you to navigate life with confidence, wisdom, and supernatural guidance. Understanding your divine assignment is one of the most crucial steps in making decisions that attract God's favor. Every individual has a purpose uniquely designed by God, a specific calling that cannot be replicated by anyone else. When your decisions are aligned with this purpose, favor follows naturally because God's favor always supports His plan. Many people go through life wandering aimlessly, making decisions based on what seems comfortable, profitable, or popular, without realizing that misalignment with their divine assignment blocks the flow of favor. Favor does not operate in a vacuum. It responds to alignment, and alignment begins with a clear understanding of who you are in Christ and what God has called you to accomplish. Without clarity about your assignment, even the most strategic, wise, or prayerful decisions may fail to yield lasting results because they are not designed to advance your God-given purpose. Understanding your assignment requires introspection and intentional seeking of God's guidance. It is not enough to simply want blessings or opportunities. You must know the direction in which your life is meant to move. This involves identifying your gifts, talents, passions, and spiritual inclinations, and aligning them with the purposes God has set for you. The world often measures success through material gain, recognition, or influence. But divine assignment is not about what looks impressive to man. It is about what produces eternal impact and fulfills God's plan through your life. When your decisions are rooted in this understanding, you no longer chase after what is convenient or fleeting. Instead, every choice you make becomes a step toward fulfilling your destiny. Favor is drawn to lives that walk in purpose because God's supernatural resources cannot be wasted. They are directed toward His intended outcome. Your divine assignment also shapes the kind of opportunities you should pursue and the doors you should walk through. Not every opportunity is meant for you, and not every path leads to divine multiplication. Understanding your assignment allows you to discern which situations, partnerships, and ventures are in alignment with your calling and which are distractions. When you act without this clarity, you may inadvertently pursue paths that look promising but ultimately drain your energy, time, and resources. Conversely, when your steps are purposeful and intentional, guided by a clear sense of assignment, favor accompanies your journey. It opens doors that human effort alone could never unlock, places you in the right environments, and brings the right people into your life at the right time to advance your mission. Another important aspect of understanding your assignment is embracing patience and faithfulness. Fulfillment of purpose is often a process that requires diligence, persistence, and sometimes seasons of waiting. God's favor does not bypass preparation. It magnifies what is ready to receive it. Knowing your assignment provides perspective and resilience in moments when progress seems slow. It keeps you from comparing your journey with others, from being tempted by shortcuts, and from making decisions that are motivated by impatience rather than purpose. Favor thrives where faithfulness resides, and faithfulness grows when you are clear about what God has asked you to do. Finally, understanding your divine assignment empowers you to make decisions with confidence. When you know your purpose, your choices become intentional rather than reactive, and your steps are strategic rather than random. You no longer make decisions based on fear, peer pressure, or fleeting emotions because your life is anchored on a calling that transcends circumstance. Favor follows decisiveness that is rooted in purpose because God's resources, guidance, and timing respond to alignment with His plan. Every prayer, every act of obedience, and every moment of preparation is magnified when it is applied to the path of your divine assignment. Understanding your divine assignment is the compass for all your decisions. It ensures alignment with God's plan, draws supernatural favor, protects against distractions, cultivates patience and faithfulness, and empowers confident, purpose-driven choices. Those who walk in this clarity live a life of accelerated breakthroughs, open doors, and opportunities that cannot be explained by human effort alone. Wisdom and discernment are foundational in making decisions that attract God's favor, because favor does not simply follow effort or good intentions. It follows intelligent alignment with God's principles. Many people live their lives making decisions based on emotions, desires, peer influence, or even societal trends, only to find that their choices lead to confusion, delay, or unnecessary hardship. Favor, in contrast, responds to wisdom and discernment. Wisdom is the ability to apply knowledge rightly, while discernment is the capacity to perceive and distinguish the will of God amidst competing influences. When these two qualities govern your decisions, you position yourself in the path of divine acceleration, ensuring that every step you take is purposeful, strategic, and in harmony with God's plan. A life without discernment is like navigating a complex city without a map or a compass. You may move, you may even make progress, but you are constantly at risk of taking wrong turns that slow you down or divert you completely from your intended destination. Wisdom is cultivated through understanding, experience, and a deliberate pursuit of knowledge. It is not merely academic intelligence or cleverness, but a spiritual and practical insight into how life and divine principles operate. A person guided by wisdom can anticipate consequences, evaluate opportunities, and make choices that maximize favor while avoiding pitfalls. Discernment, on the other hand, enables you to see beyond appearances and identify the true nature of situations, people, and opportunities. Not everything that glitters is gold, and not every open door is meant for you. Discernment allows you to recognize subtle cues, to hear the voice of the Spirit amid conflicting opinions, and to separate what is beneficial from what is detrimental. Without discernment, even a well-intentioned decision may attract hardship, delay, or disappointment, no matter how much effort or prayer is applied. The importance of wisdom and discernment in attracting God's favor is evident in the way they protect your life from error and misalignment. Favor can be blocked not only by sin or disobedience, but also by ignorance and short-sightedness. A person may pray diligently, fast faithfully, and seek God's help, yet if they lack discernment, they may make choices that inadvertently repel favor. For example, investing time, resources, or energy into ventures that are not aligned with God's plan can delay the manifestation of blessings, while following the wrong advice or trusting unwise counsel can lead to setbacks. Wisdom ensures that your choices are sound, and discernment ensures that your alignment with divine purpose is accurate. Together, they serve as a protective shield that guides your steps into positions where favor can manifest fully. Moreover, wisdom and discernment foster humility and teach you to seek God's guidance consistently. A wise person recognizes that human knowledge is limited and that even the best judgment can be flawed without divine input. By valuing discernment, you cultivate a sensitivity to the Spirit, learning to pause before decisions, to ask critical questions, and to evaluate outcomes before committing. Favor is drawn to lives that make intelligent, thoughtful, and spirit-led choices, because these choices reflect obedience, responsibility, and readiness to handle divine multiplication. God honors those who approach life with intentionality, who evaluate situations carefully, and who refuse to be driven solely by impulse or emotion. Developing wisdom and discernment requires a conscious effort to study God's principles, to reflect on experiences, to seek godly counsel, and to pray for insight. It is a lifelong journey, but one that pays eternal dividends, because decisions made with wisdom and discernment consistently attract favor. Those who master this practice avoid unnecessary delays, bypass common pitfalls, and are consistently positioned for breakthroughs that seem supernatural to others. Favor is drawn not to impulsive, hasty decisions, but to choices that are informed by knowledge, tempered by understanding, and guided by the Spirit. Consistency and patience are indispensable qualities when it comes to making decisions that attract God's favor, because favor is not a one-time event. It is a flow that responds to steady, faithful action over time. Many people desire favor instantly and expect that a single good decision, a moment of insight, or a flash of inspiration will produce immediate results. While God can operate supernaturally, his favor usually aligns with patterns of faithfulness, discipline, and sustained obedience. Consistency demonstrates reliability, and favor is drawn to those whose lives show stability, perseverance, and dedication. When decisions are made with a consistent mindset, they form a track record that heaven can endorse. Favor does not merely follow impulsive or sporadic efforts. It gravitates toward lives that are predictably aligned with divine principles. Lives that reflect repeated trust in God's guidance and repeated action in accordance with his will. Patience is equally vital, because favor often requires time to manifest. In a world obsessed with speed, instant results, and immediate gratification, many fail to understand that God's timing is perfect and his favor operates according to his schedule, not ours. There is a principle in the spiritual realms. Decisions aligned with God's will are seeds, and favor is the water and sunlight that nurtures them. However, just as a seed takes time to grow, develop roots, and bear fruit, the outcomes of godly decisions require endurance and waiting. Impatience can sabotage even well-made decisions, causing hasty moves, shortcuts, or compromises that repel favor instead of attracting it. Those who develop the discipline of patience understand that every delay is an opportunity for growth, preparation, and refinement, and they learn to trust that God is orchestrating every step toward the intended result. Consistency and patience work together to form a lifestyle of reliability and trustworthiness. When you consistently make choices that reflect integrity, purpose, and alignment with God's principles, you signal to heaven that you are ready to receive the multiplication of your efforts. Favor is attracted to repeatable patterns, not one-off actions, because God's supernatural provision multiplies what is prepared, steady, and faithful. For example, a person who diligently invests time in prayer, service, skill development, and obedience over months and years positions themselves to experience breakthroughs that appear sudden to others, but are actually the result of accumulated faithfulness. Favor honors preparation and consistent alignment, recognizing the effort that has been sustained over time. Patience also strengthens decision making because it allows space for reflection, correction, and discernment. Hasty choices made under pressure often overlook critical details, spiritual insight, or opportunities that could enhance the outcome. Those who cultivate patience are better able to seek counsel, pray for wisdom, and wait for confirmation before acting. This approach not only reduces mistakes, but also enhances the effectiveness of the decisions made. Consistency ensures that this patience is not idle. It converts waiting into preparation, aligning each action with purpose so that when favor manifests, it is met with readiness to receive and steward it responsibly. Another dimension of consistency and patience is the cultivation of character. Favor does not simply bless actions, it honors hearts and motives. A person who consistently chooses integrity, generosity, and obedience over convenience, and who patiently endures trials without compromising principles, attracts favor naturally. Favor gravitates toward lives that reflect maturity, reliability, and spiritual depth. The combination of consistent good choices and patient endurance builds a spiritual environment in which favor can operate freely, opening doors, multiplying resources, and orchestrating divine connections in ways that human effort alone cannot achieve. Consistency and patience in decision making create a pattern of trustworthiness that heaven recognizes. When choices are made repeatedly in alignment with God's will, and patience is exercised to wait for divine timing, favor flows without hindrance. Obstacles are removed and blessings are multiplied. Those who master these qualities experience life in acceleration, while those who rush, waver, or act inconsistently often struggle despite talent, effort, or prayer. Obedience over convenience is a fundamental principle in making decisions that attract God's favor, because favor responds not to what is easy or comfortable, but to what aligns with God's will. Many people desire blessings, breakthroughs, and divine acceleration, yet they are unwilling to take the steps that require sacrifice, discipline, or stepping out of their comfort zones. Favor is selective. It follows those who choose the path of righteousness, integrity, and obedience, even when it is inconvenient. Life often presents two options: the convenient choice that satisfies immediate desires, saves effort, or avoids discomfort, and the obedient choice that aligns with God's principles, sometimes requiring patience, sacrifice, or courage. God's favor always gravitates toward obedience because it honors his authority, aligns with his purpose, and demonstrates faith in his guidance. Convenience may bring temporary ease, but obedience attracts supernatural multiplication, divine connections, and breakthroughs that human effort cannot generate. Obedience over convenience begins with a mindset that values God's approval above personal comfort. Societal pressure or immediate gain Many people fall into the trap of measuring success by how easy a decision is or how much it benefits them in the short term. Favor, however, responds to hearts that are willing to prioritize God's directives over human inclinations. When a decision requires sacrifice, discipline, or delayed gratification, it is an opportunity to demonstrate that your allegiance is not to temporary comfort, but to divine purpose. God's favor is drawn to lives that show consistency in honoring Him, even when no one is watching, and even when circumstances make obedience difficult. Choosing obedience over convenience also cultivates trust in God. Life is full of situations where the easiest route seems appealing, yet God calls for actions that may appear inconvenient, risky, or contrary to human logic. When you obey, even when it is challenging, you are demonstrating faith in God's wisdom and His timing. This faith, expressed through obedience, creates an environment for favor to manifest, because heaven rewards those who trust and act according to His guidance rather than their own understanding. The principle here is that favor does not simply follow knowledge, prayer, or talent alone. It follows a life committed to doing what God commands, even when doing so requires personal cost or discomfort. Obedience over convenience also protects you from the consequences of short-sighted decisions. Many people suffer delays, setbacks, or missed opportunities because they chose the easy way, the socially acceptable way, or the most comfortable path, only to discover later that these decisions were misaligned with God's plan. Favor bypasses shortcuts, manipulations, and compromises, and instead moves in the life of those who consistently act in alignment with God's standards. Even when the obedient path seems slow, difficult, or lonely, it positions you for long-term multiplication and supernatural alignment that convenience can never provide. Furthermore, obedience over convenience strengthens character and builds spiritual resilience. Life will often test you with choices where immediate gain conflicts with long-term divine purpose. Favor thrives in lives that have demonstrated the courage to choose rightly, the discipline to prioritize principle over pleasure, and the faith to trust God even when the reward is delayed. Each obedient decision, especially when inconvenient, becomes a spiritual investment, a signal to heaven that you are prepared for greater responsibility, increased influence, and the multiplication of resources. Favor honors consistency in obedience and amplifies the outcomes of disciplined, principle-centered decisions. Finally, obedience over convenience ensures alignment with God's timing and divine strategy. Many people rush toward what seems beneficial in the moment, only to encounter obstacles, confusion, or dead ends. Favor, however, flows effortlessly when your choices honor God's instructions and reflect submission to His will, regardless of how difficult or inconvenient they may appear. The life of consistent obedience becomes a magnet for supernatural favor because it demonstrates that your priorities are aligned with heaven, not with the fleeting comforts or pressures of the world. Heaven responds to obedience, and the doors that open The opportunities that manifest and the blessings that multiply are often a direct result of choosing the path that honors God above personal convenience. Beloved, the blueprint to decisions that attract God's favor is not a mystery reserved for a select few. It is a divine pattern revealed to those who are willing to align their steps with heaven. When your life is anchored in prayer, guided by wisdom and discernment, rooted in purpose, consistent in action, patient in waiting, and obedient even when it is inconvenient, favor becomes a natural response to your decisions. This favor does not operate randomly. It moves strategically to elevate your life, open doors, multiply resources, and position you in alignment with God's plan. The choices you make today, when guided by these principles, will determine the level of supernatural acceleration you experience tomorrow. Favor is not about luck, nor is it about human effort alone. It is the reward for alignment, the outcome of obedience, and the fruit of purposeful decision making. Choose rightly, act faithfully, and remain sensitive to God's guidance. And you will discover that the impossible begins to manifest, the unseen becomes visible, and life unfolds in ways far beyond natural explanation.